The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, hello, and welcome to What to Expect from the Candidate Development Team and Job Search 101 webinar. We are really excited to have you all join us this afternoon, or for some of you who are on the West Coast, and so happy early afternoon to you all. One of the things we wanted to start with before we get started into the formal part of our presentation is we wanted to highlight the question feature of our webinar. So if you look at the bottom of your GoToWebinar box, there is a question section. There's where you are able to submit your questions throughout our entire webinar presentation today. We'll make sure to get to your question at the end of our formal presentation. If we cannot get, if it's a pertinent topic and we need to get to it throughout as we're going through our information, we'll definitely do that as well. But again, we encourage you all to utilize our question feature and to get all your questions answered from us as we move through our presentation. Also, if you have any other questions at the end of the webinar, you can also always email us at candidates@theplacementexchange.org, which is also listed on the question portion of our slide that we'll have at the end of our presentation. Also, just a reminder, once we finish our webinar, there will be another opportunity for our participants to view our webinar again. We will be posting all of our webinars on our YouTube channel. And so give us about 28 to 48 hours and you'll be able to review the content from this session throughout the year on our YouTube channel. And so we'll go ahead and get started with introductions of ourselves, and Tom will go ahead and start us off.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tom Park. I currently serve as the Assistant Director for Facilities Operations for Capstone on Campus Management at Florida Atlantic University. My involvement with TPE has evolved over the years. I have served as an employer recruiting, volunteer on site, resume reviewer, and this is my second year on the committee, having served on the Employer Development Committee last year.
Hello, everyone. My name is Larry Nurse. I'm currently serving as Associate Dean of Students at the New Jersey Institute of Technology, and I have served on the Candidate Development Team. This is my second year, and it's been a blast so far. Previous to that, I served as a recruiter at TPE with my former institutions of employment, and so I'm excited to serve in this capacity and help you in any way that you see my help can be needed.
Hello again, my name is Ebony Lamar. I currently work at the University of Pennsylvania, where I serve as a house dean and an academic advisor. This is my second year on the TPE committee. This year I'm serving as the chair of the Candidate Development Team. My previous roles when I worked with TPE has ranged from being a resume reviewer, being a candidate coach, helping with registration with that. And so I've done a variety of things within TPE with that, but I'm very excited about our work that we do within our committee.
Great. And good afternoon, everyone. I wanted to quickly introduce myself. I'm Kirsten Fox. I am the director of the Placement Exchange. And as you'll hear more about TPE, we are a partnership between 7 higher ed associations, sponsored primarily by ACU Hawaii, the Association of College and University Housing Officers International, located in Columbus, Ohio, and NASPA, located in Washington, D.C. So I work for both organizations, and we're excited to be able to present officially TPE and the Placement Exchange. We obviously wouldn't be able to do any of what we do without our fantastic committees, our TPE Steering Committee, and obviously our Candidate Development Committee, which is presenting this to you today. So I look forward to seeing each of you as candidates as well, and wish you the best of luck. And you can always, if you have general TPE questions, always email info@theplacementexchange.org, and we will be able to answer those as well. So congratulations on being a candidate, and best of luck.
Thank you, Kirsten.
So in terms of the outcomes and the overview of today's webinar, we hope that by the end of this webinar that participants will be able to articulate the purpose of the Candidate Development Team, identify resources that the TPE Candidate Development Team can provide and will provide you all, and identify specific resources that you can participate with throughout the year. As an overview, we'll be talking about the TPE Candidate Development Committee and Group, the resources, including the webinars, resume reviews, virtual coaching, candidate orientations, bootcamp, and a preview of the on-site event, and then give an opportunity for any questions at the end.
So just to share a little bit about the purpose of the TPE Candidate Development Team, our purpose really is to provide all candidates with a high quality, comprehensive job search experience that prepares you for just about any aspect of your job search. So as was shared earlier, you know, we presented these webinars and some other opportunities for you to really experience what it's really like to be a candidate in this process. And so in addition to that, you know, during the TPE job search process, we're going to give you some insight and advice on how to really take advantage of the search that you would be pursuing in LA later next year, early next year, sorry. And, you know, so with that in mind as well, the on-site event is like one of the most exciting experiences that you can ever have as a candidate with TPE. We will provide you with the materials and the space that you'll need to effectively interview. We'll unpack a little bit more of that, what that looks like for you, but it's like one of the most exciting times that you would ever encounter in your life. And then we'll share a little bit with regards to what TPE Onsite looks like after the fact, and we will be available as a resource as a candidate development team to help you with that particular process. So that's just a little overview of our purpose as the candidate development team.
And so getting into some of these resources we've just briefly mentioned, the exciting stuff, one of the reasons that you're participating in this webinar today and future webinars that we'll be having throughout the year. And so one of our primary resources that we offer with the TPE, you're currently sitting in one, is our webinar series that we have throughout the year. And so our webinar series that we'll be offering out the year, it provided to our candidates as an opportunity to talk to them and discuss with them pertinent topics related to your job search experience, not just on site, but before you even get to TPE. With that, and some of the content that we have with our webinars are based on things we've seen in the past in regards to candidates' experiences, what we've heard from candidates who've come to TPE, what we've heard from various levels of professionals within our field. With that, and so this is our webinar is really an opportunity to give our candidates, to provide our candidates with valuable information that's related to all aspects of their job search, not just the interview experience. And so, as you know, as you see now, this webinar that you're participating in is facilitated by, of course, us for our members of the TPE Candidate Development Team. But our future webinars will be hosted and facilitated by a variety of student affairs and higher educational professionals within our field. With that, and so you'll get an opportunity to hear from the best of the best with that around a variety of topics and a variety of expertise levels with that. And so we want to make sure that we're providing you all the information that you need with that. And so we choose the best presenters to facilitate a variety of webinars throughout the year. So to give you a general overview of some of the webinars, the topics that we'll be exploring throughout the year, today, of course, we're focused on introduction. Next week, we'll be talking about resumes, but kind of giving you a general overview of some of the things we'll be going over with that. And so our webinars will cover a variety of topics, from getting your resume together, from how do you network and conduct yourself at receptions at TPE. What does networking mean? How do you finance TPE if you're going to go? What does it mean to attend TPE on a budget? With that, and some of our new webinars that we have, focus areas that we have this year is how do you participate in TPE or in the job search as a person with a marginalized identity? With that, and so we'll be having a special webinar focused on that as well for our candidates. With that, what does it mean to job search with a partner? We have a webinar focused on dual job searches. What does it mean, after TPE? Now you've gotten an on-campus interview. Well, that, and so having a webinar specifically focused on that to get our candidates prepared for that next level experience of their job search process. With that, and so what does it mean, when you've gotten the job now, with that, and you're on your campus, with that, and you're trying to navigate your first 90 days of your position with that. And so we have a webinar focused on navigating the first 90 days and campus politics, with, again, all useful information that covers different aspects, not just on your job search, but when you're at the job, with that, and things that happen in the first couple of years of your experience working with that. And so that really is the broad scope of our webinar series, with that, again, to provide our candidates a vast opportunity to kind of a vast opportunity to explore a variety of topics that we hope will assist you all in your job search. Also, with our webinars, with that, there will always be an opportunity for our candidates and our participants to submit their questions in advance, and also, as you're doing now, to submit your questions while you're participating in the webinar. We don't want to just make sure that we're providing the content. We also want to make sure that you are having an opportunity to get your questions answered as well with that throughout all of our webinars. With that. And so that's one of the resources that we'll be offering this year for our candidates.
So in one of the resources, we have career coaching. If any of you have spoken with folks that participated with TPE last year, we had a resume review process. We are currently still in the process of making some changes and doing some tweaks here and there based off of feedback from last year, but we are hoping to integrate the resume review into the virtual coaching opportunities that we're going to present. You know, you'll be able to have direct contact with a professional in the field, and it won't just be reviewing your resume. I mean, it's an opportunity for you to network, develop a relationship, and talk about the different aspects of the job search process and what you know, potential employers are looking for in their recruitment process, and what you as a potential candidate are looking for in doing those interviews. So more information will be sent out regarding this, but it's hopefully a new and great opportunity that we are providing you all this year and for many more years to come.
And so I'm keeping in line in terms of our resources that we'll be offering. So our next resource is our candidate newsletter. And so the newsletter is a resource intended to keep our candidates up to date and well informed of our special services and our support. But that we want to make sure that you continue to have all the to prepare you for coming on site and to keep up to date with our webinars. And so we will be starting our webinar series in November. The first webinar will be coming out on November 3rd. And we'll be keeping that schedule the first Friday of every month leading up until TPE. And so the newsletter will include a variety of topics. And so we'll always keep you updated in regards to reminders regarding on-site. With that, we'll have possible links to TPE articles designed for candidates. We're hoping to insert some stories highlighting previous experience of TPE candidates to get you all excited about our TPE Onsite. With that, and provide you all some just firsthand experience from folks who've gone to TPE in the past. And finally, an estimated timeline of actions for candidates to complete for the month with that. And so, in order to streamline and making sure that you have everything in order with that, we'll also include the timeline of what's coming up next, what you need to do next in order to prepare for TPE Onsite with that. And so this is more of an email format newsletter, but that, again, that you'll see the first Friday of every month to keep you updated in addition to the resume review and the webinars that we will be providing for you all.
Yes, we're going to talk a little bit about Facebook Live sessions. So we did this last year and it was a huge success, and so why not try it again this year? And so it's pretty much the best way to interact with some professionals within the field in real life time. So you get an opportunity to ask them questions right on the spot, hear what's on their mind, see how long they've been in the field, check out, you know, questions, get a better sense of what it really is like to be a professional in the field. So you get that from professionals who have already done this work within a period of time. We have a couple of sessions, and those are focused on these 2 dates, December the 13th and that one is all about what exactly is professionalism. And professionalism is a relative term, but you'll get to have a one-on-one kind of scenario with the person that we've established to present there. And then the second one we have is on February the 22nd, where the candidate development team will be able to field any questions or concerns that you might have. You know, it might be coming up, drawing close to the actual time where you'll be on site in LA, and so we want to be able to provide you with any responses or answers that you might have some queries to, so that you are better positioned to be on site in a very relaxed kind of situation. And so Facebook Live, just tune into that when we have those sessions getting ready for you. As I said, the first one December the 13th, and the second one will be on February the 22nd.
So 2 additional things for Facebook Live sessions. And so there's no pre-registration required for Facebook Live. All of our Facebook Live sessions will be hosted through our TPE Facebook page with that. And so I encourage you all to follow us and to like our page with that, so that you get the announcements when the Facebook Live sessions will be starting. With that, for those of you who are not familiar with Facebook Live, even if you aren't able to attend the session as it's going with that, those sessions are also saved on Facebook with that. And so you're able to review the content and ask your questions to the presenter that they can see. It just won't be in real time, just like our webinars. With that. And so again, like our page, join our group, our TPE page Facebook with that, so you can get information in regards to when those sessions are coming up. And so one of our final resources, one of our final 2 resources that we'll be offering our candidates through our team with that, our candidate orientations. With that, to assist our candidates in preparing as much as possible for TPE Onsite 29, we'll be offering 3 additional webinars. And so literally just talked about one of them within Facebook Live, and they all will be hosted by the candidate development team that focus on preparing for the event, what to expect when you arrive. These sessions will include topics such as on-site logistics. So what happens when you get there? What am I going to see? How do I navigate around TPE once I arrive? What does interview scheduling look like? How do I prepare before I come to on-site? For the interviews? What do I pack? What do I bring to TPE? And so these sessions will be focusing on those elements as well. We will also be discussing throughout these next 3 webinar sessions all of the variety of on-site resources that we have. And so all the resources we're talking about today really focus on pre-on-site, outside of Bootcamp with that. But the next couple of sessions will be focusing on all the resources and support we can offer our candidates once they arrive to Los Angeles. And so you really don't want to miss these sessions. We have one in November, we have one in December, and we have one in February. And so make sure that you tune in, you log in, you register, so you can get all of your candidate prep and on-site information available to you with that. And so make sure that you're prepared as possible with that. And so again, these are the ones you don't want to miss.
Bootcamp. This is probably one of my most exciting areas. TPE, the Candidate Development Team, is really excited that we can provide you with this huge resource. So pretty much Bootcamp is an informative and supportive program. It has some challenges to it, which in a really positive manner, to provide you, the candidates, with any guidance or advice on what the TPE experience can be. And so we've designed a couple of areas that we think are most beneficial to the candidates with the bootcamp process. And some of those ones that we have indicated that are most necessary are researching institutions and developing, those strong, thoughtful interview questions. So you'll have some individuals within the field who, where you do kind of a round table, a circular kind of process where you move from one station to the next. And so you get to chat with these individuals about, what it means to research in an institution, what are the different points in their professional careers, getting a really good sense as to what it's really like for an on-campus interview, follow-up interviews, those kind of things. So you get to really speak with some individuals about that particular aspect, which is the research in institutions. And another area that I think is really, really important within that particular process you get to be part of a mock interview process. You have several individuals within the field who volunteer their services to interview you. Just kind of give you that practice run to determine, okay, well, so how do I calm my nerves? How do I ask those appropriate questions? So you actually get a real on-site experience as what it's like to have a mock interview before you actually go into that interview for that place of interest that you're willing to work with. And so it really gives you an opportunity as a candidate to really zoom in, take advantage of the opportunities with this boot camp. There's several individuals that attend. I think we're open it to up to 200 participants. So the sooner that you can actually register for that, it puts you in a good position so that you don't miss out on this great chance to be part of this boot camp experience. And so it's an invaluable experience. We strongly encourage you to think about participating in it. And we know that we have our registration is going to be open on December the 1st. So just be on the lookout for that via our website to make sure that you sign up on time. As I said, one of the most premier exclusive on-site events, which is our bootcamp experience, which is hosted by the Candidate Development Team. So if you have any other questions associated with that, feel free to email us.
Just tapping on to what Larry just eloquently explained already with that. And so I always talk to parents about bootcamp. If you want to hit the ground running with your job search experience once you get on site, but that if you want to get those last minute sessions in that will boost your confidence or help you prepare for your interactions with employers through receptions and through interviewing, you want to sign up for bootcamp. Guys, we get limited spots with that, but this is an opportunity for our candidates to get those last minute professional development pieces in and to really hit the ground running when it comes to your job search with that. We don't see this offered within any other field with that, and so definitely something you want to take advantage of if you can.
One slide back, please. There we go. So the Job Search 101. This is a quick checklist for you to start thinking about your own checklist. I think in looking at who you are as a candidate, who you are as a person, and an upcoming student affairs professional, identify where your interests are. Are you a housing person or are you not a housing person? Look at the values, your values, the values of other institutions and the types of institutions that you're interested in. And then take a look at your unique characteristics. Understanding an institution and does it fit with you is one of the most important things to try to understand and determine as you're going through this process. Look at your skill set. Again, create a list or checklist of things in terms of what skills you've developed. What are the skills that you currently have in your roles right now as graduate students, as graduate assistants in your departments, and look at what skills you may not be particularly strong with, and see are there opportunities between now and next year that you can help work on. Take a look at the areas of interest that you have in higher education. Whether it's with student affairs, whether it's without. You could be somebody that is very data driven, and institutional research and assessment may be your area, or housing may not be your thing. So looking at student activities or orientation or academic advising. Looking at the different types of institution, I think that's one of the most important things. A private liberal arts college in the Northeast is very different than a big state institution like University of Michigan or the University of Texas, which also differs very much from private institutions like NYU or Northeastern. So understand, I think, where you would fit and understand how each institution kind of works with who you are as an individual and who you are as a upcoming professional. Look at the job features. Some jobs are much more detailed, or job descriptions are much more detailed than others. Look at the location. Are you a person that likes your snow in the winter or all 4 seasons, or do you want to avoid it? You want to stay south. So think about those things. Look at establishing a plan and strategies. If you haven't created a TPE account yet, please do so. It doesn't cost you anything to set up your own profile. But you can, look at jobs that are posted. You can start applying for jobs, and you can connect with other institutions. Come up with your own timelines. Look at a plan of attack for yourself. Obviously maintain some flexibility, because not all the best laid plans always work out, but have one at least. Understand kind of where you are in terms of when TPE is coming in March. Looking at what your potential interview schedule is like in April and May, and how that conflicts with finals, or how that conflicts with closing or graduation, and then look into the summer. Look at that timeline. If you are still searching in the summer, which is completely fine, are you going to be still at the location of your institution? Are you going to be at home, if that differs? So think about all those things. And then definitely, again, taking advantage of the career resources that we have and that your own institutions have, updating or making sure that you have a CV or a resume. And then utilizing resources. We've talked about a lot of resources through this webinar already. So please, if you have questions, let us know. Visit the TPE website, take a look at the candidate section, and we are here to help you. Your own institutions are a wealth of have wealth of knowledge and resources. Your career center, the folks that you work with on your own campus, the professionals that you interact with, your faculty. They have all been through a recruiting process at one point in their life, whether it's TPE or whether it's not with TPE, but they have been a candidate at some point, and they can all provide you with great information and great firsthand advice on their experience and how you can take that into your own. Stay connected. TPE, we have multiple avenues of social media, from Facebook to Instagram to Twitter. So please connect with us. We try to provide the information on all three areas, but sometimes something gets tweeted out that doesn't always make it to the Instagram page or Facebook. So keep up with what's happening currently and nationally and internationally. Pay attention to education newspapers and journals, the Chronicle. Make sure you understand what the hot topics are and how it could potentially impact you or students moving forward. And then preparing for the interviews. This is probably one of the most important things is the preparation for the interview. Just as we all introduced ourselves at the beginning of this webinar, I actually had to type something out. I had to know exactly what I was going to say, because if I didn't, I probably would have rambled a little bit. So you want to be able to create your own little elevator speech of who you are and what is important to you. And again, do your homework. Understand the institutions that you are potentially applying to and potentially interviewing with. And you always want to keep them straight. You never want to mix up what's happening at Ohio State versus what's happening at the University of Michigan. So make sure you know what you're getting into and who you're talking to. Benish, I think you're muted.
The TPE Onsite Preview. And so we know we are 6 months away from the main event, but we wanted to give you all a glimpse into our available on-site resources that will be provided for all of our candidates in Los Angeles. And so one of those courses registration, which is open now, so as I mentioned earlier, if you want to get the early bird rate, make sure you visit our website, whether that's to register and create your profile to get started with your job search and to get ready for on-site. of course, the main reasons that folks come to TPE is interviewing with that. And so one of the on-site opportunities is to interview with a variety of employers that we have that will be coming to Los Angeles to recruiting the best candidates for the positions that they have at their respective institutions. We're talking a little bit about candidate mailboxes, right? So opportunity for our candidates to connect with employers while they're on site. Workroom spaces that we're providing for all of our candidates. And so we're providing these opportunities for our candidates to take breaks in the middle of their interviews, to get their resumes and cover letters and thank you letters in order while they're all on site as well. Providing opportunities for our candidates to schedule interviews with employers as well. And so not all of your scheduling has to take place before you get to on-site. There will also opportunities to do that when you are there, particularly for some institutions that you may not have reached out or may not have reached out to you before on-site. Those opportunities will be available as well. Following up with employers. We also be offering a fantastic another on-site resource, which is roundtable discussions. And so I like to consider these in-person webinars. So these will also be focused on pertinent topics related to the job search. And so these will be open to all of our candidates. We'll be offering about 3 to 4 on-site at a variety of times. And so that's another resource you all can take advantage of should you attend TPE in Los Angeles. But we'll discuss all of these more in depth at our November 15th webinar. So as you can see, we have a lot to offer you. And we hope you all join us for TPE 2019. It's going to, as Larry mentioned, will be one of the best experience of your job search experience this year. So this really concludes the formal presentation portion of our webinar. So we would love to take some questions for you all as it relates to anything we covered here, or just anything that's on your mind in regards to TPE, with that preparation, with that as a candidate or prospective candidate. And so we do have one question that came in. And so someone asks, what day does boot camp start? And so boot camp starts on March 6th. It will be from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And so everything will be, boot camp will be starting before interviews start with that. And so because it's an opportunity to prepare you for the interview experience. So another question that we have, does it cost to register for bootcamp? We are still kind of working with the logistical pieces with that and fees and things that's related to bootcamp. So more information regarding that as you will see when registration opens and everything that it entails should you want to participate in bootcamp at TPE. And so bootcamp is Wednesday, March 6th.
And I should also add to one of the things that we're looking to add this year to the bootcamp. We're probably exploring what it would look like to connect with someone in LinkedIn, since it's regarded as one of the most professional, more professional sought websites that student affairs professionals access to, either find jobs, connect with other practitioners. And so we're trying to make that a possibility as part of the bootcamp process. So stay tuned on that. If it's not that, it's going to be another one of the modules that is presented to candidates to participate in addition to the research institutions and the mock interview. So stay tuned on that one, but we're hoping that this one can come to fruition so you can really have a really great experience with that one as part of bootcamp.
So another question that came in was asked, if we cannot make it on March 6th, will we lose out on additional opportunities or interviews? I'm going to assume this means that they can't make it to boot camp versus not making it to TPE Onsite overall. Boot camp is just another opportunity for you. It's additional prep time. So there are still continued resource opportunities at TPE Onsite. We will have candidate coaching available in a candidate workroom. So, and that will not affect attending boot camp or not will not impact your ability to have interviews.
Right, and this, yeah, the roundtables is also another resource as well that is provided for you. So if you're not able to make bootcamp, we definitely, as Tom said, there are additional resources that we can support with your
in regards to interviews with that, so the second part of that question was that, and so interviews are happening every day that TPE Onsite is happening. With that, and so as you are pre-scheduling your interviews with your potential employers with that, there's opportunities to let them know you won't be arriving to TPE until the 7th with that, and so there are plenty of opportunities to interview with employers throughout each of the days with that. You don't have to necessarily arrive on March 6th to get all of your interview opportunities. We recognize that TPE being in Los Angeles, and depending on which coast you're coming from, it may be a little bit more expensive for others to be at TPE their entire time versus coming a couple of days with that. But that should not impact you negatively in terms of getting interviews and interviewing at TPE in general.
In terms of, so a question about, is it normal to interview amongst different functional areas? It's completely normal. I think it all depends on where your interests lie. You know, as long as there is a position that interests you, whether it's a housing position, whether it's a student activities, orientation, campus recreation, you know, fraternity and sorority life. I mean, you could have as many different types of interviews in different functional areas as you choose and are offered to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I always encourage candidates with that. And so one of the fantastic things about TPE and the variety of functional areas of employers that come to interview for candidates is that for some candidates, before you get to TPE, you may say, I just want to interview within this functional area. But when you get to TPE and you see all the other amazing opportunities, you may want to add on a different functional area to explore. Well, so that's one of the beauties of having TPE on site is you get an opportunity to change your mind. And that's one of the reasons that we have the variety of functional areas of interviews at TPE.
And to add to that one as well, one of the things I think we experienced last year to several candidates, you know, because they concentrated their interest in a particular area, their resume did not necessarily reflect what they were able to actually do. And so if it means that you need to, rather than have a chronological resume, make sure that your resume is more of a functional resume. That way it can really address those areas that you can really showcase your strengths. And so sometimes employers look for that as well, even if it's not chronological. So take that into consideration with this particular process at TPE as well.
So the other question that we have, are there computers or printers in the candidate workroom? Absolutely, with that. And so we have a variety of rooms for our candidates on site, and one of those rooms is a computer room. With that, yes, there's printing available in that room as well. But that we ask all of our candidates to use it in moderation with that. And so not printing out maybe 300 resumes, but it's okay if you're printing out maybe 10 with that while you're utilizing this space. We want to make sure that the ink and the paper is available to all of our candidates with that. And so again, just using it in moderation. But it is also free for our candidates as well. We'll wait a little more to see if there's any other questions that come in from our participants. Absolutely. We'll be sending out this presentation, this webinar. It will be on our YouTube channel. But that, and so if you go to YouTube and type in the Placement Exchange in about 24 hours or so, we will have this uploaded to that website and you'll be able to view our webinar. We can also send it out to if folks would like to have an email to them as well. The PowerPoint presentation.
And if you are one of those folks, just send us an email at candidates@theplacementexchange.org requesting a copy of the presentation, and we'll be sure to get it out to you.
Absolutely.
Looks like we have another question being typed out. So the question is, what is the average number of interviews a candidate will do at TPE? I think this is a very, it varies per person. You know, you can have somebody coming to TPE and they end up doing 5 interviews. You could have somebody coming to TPE and they completely pack their schedule with interviews, which could be, you know, upwards of 30 or 40. We don't necessarily recommend that, but, you know, it all depends on kind of who you are. And it all depends on what positions are available and what interests you. I think we recommend that you both take a discerning look at every job that's listed that may fit your criteria, as well as anytime a employer reaches out expressing interests, there's nothing wrong with politely declining. You don't have to accept every job interview offer that is sent to you. So, you know, that number, again, it varies. It's very specific to each person. But, you know, we recommend that you kind of branch out and take a look at things and consider things that you may not have initially.
So another thing to think about with interviews, I know when in the past when candidates are thinking about interviews with that, it could be the ones that are pre-scheduled or your first round interviews, but one of the benefits of coming to TPE with that is that candidates some candidates will get an opportunity to have second round interviews. And so taking that into consideration when you are looking at potential jobs and scheduling interviews as well. But that second interviews, you're not going to know until you get to TPE and you've had the first round interview and you get invited with that. And so that can add on to your interview schedule with that. And so which makes it even more so in terms of having a critical look at each employer, each position, and deciding whether or not you want to interview with that institution should you get an opportunity to get a second round interview with that school, because now one has now become 2.
And something that I think is invaluable is self-care in the whole process, and that would be probably unpacked in a couple more webinars, but really taking care of yourself so as not to be overwhelmed in the process, because it can be a very overwhelming process. And so exercise some self-care, knowing what works for you, and some of those same things that Tom mentioned in terms of your location, you know, and being open to other things as well. But all of those things are factors when it comes to how many types of interviews that you should actually have at TPE. So keep that in the back of your mind.
And our next question about our interview scheduled through the portal. Yes, on-site, you will be scheduling interviews online. Schools may reach out to you independently, but you want to then make sure that you're putting it onto your schedule through your profile. Once you get on-site, you know, we have a interview scheduling area, and you'll be going through that process once you're on-site.
Mm-hmm. Another question that came in was, do we submit new resumes or cover letters for every position, or do we use a general cover letter for all positions similar to TPE? I'm assuming that's TPE. I think you should be really mindful of where you want to be. I think that cover letter should really be specific to the institution, because if you use a general cover letter, sometimes you might forget and put the wrong institution there when you're actually applying to another institution. So I think it's always very something to take into consideration when you're writing those cover letters, that you're very meticulous in ensuring that it's addressed to the right institution, and it should really speak to what that institution institution is looking for. Sometimes generic cover letters can just be general, and so it doesn't really speak to your interests and how you can really contribute to that particular institution's environment. So really take that into consideration when you're writing those cover letters. And resumes can be pretty standard, but again, going back to whether or not you depend on the job and your level of knowledge and skill set, it can be changed to a functional one instead of a chronological one. So keep those things in mind when you're submitting cover letters and resumes.
And also on another note for cover letters, some institutions may even ask you to answer specific questions in your cover letter, which is even more so important to making sure that your cover letter is specific to you, that institution and that position.
So our next question, we had somebody ask, what is the ratio of those who apply for interviews and those who get hired? Want to potentially direct that to Kirsten, the director of TPE?
Thanks, Tom. That's a great question. I don't know that we actually have that answer. One of the things that we're starting to look at is, right, based on if you apply, oftentimes you might get a first interview, but then there could be multiple interviews, and then whether or not you're coming back for an on-campus interview and actually getting hired. So the ratio for like a specific job, they're obviously going to interview considerably more candidates when they can only hire one. So it's hard to actually give kind of that data, and by the time they get hired, we don't hear back from employers as to who they actually hire. We do have data that showcases that employers hire candidates from TPE, which is why they come. So we know that the odds in that sense of, asking about a ratio are good, but it's really hard to kind of note exactly that. We've also had candidates who have stated in the past that they maybe ended up taking a job that they didn't interview for at TPE, but they felt more comfortable through the process because of their experience with TPE and gaining more confidence and so forth. So again, it's sort of a hard one to answer, but we know that employers keep coming back because the candidates do well, and likewise we know that candidates keep coming back because they know that the odds of getting a position are that much stronger. There's a lot of employers that come that will only look at candidates who come to TPE.
So that's a good segue, Kirsten, with that. And so there are, again, like she said, there are employers who will only look at candidates who are coming to TPE, and that will be reflected on their job posting with that. And so employers who are only looking will have that same at TPE or on site on their job post, so that you know that they will be there with that and that they'll be doing that TPE on. So the next question that we have, about what month do employers start to post more positions specifically for TPE conference? I only see about 3 on the site right now and wondering when I should expect to start seeing a lot. This is a fantastic question, especially for folks who are looking for residential life positions, and I would say entry-level residence life positions. And so a lot of institutions and employers with that will start to get intents to returns from their current staff this semester. And usually those are due around December or January, depending on the institution. Some employers will not post their positions until they know how many people would not be returning to that position. Some will post and it will have the tagline saying anticipated opening, which means that they may still be waiting for a confirmation on a position And so we usually start to see positions, an uptick in terms of position postings after the holiday break in December because they've gotten a lot of their information from their current employees which has given them the okay to go ahead and post the position on our website which means it's available and so I wouldn't panic now we will start to get a lot of positions being posted but a lot of those come in December.
The next question is, are interviews done in a room filled with other people? Yes, That's the first part. Interviews are done in a room filled with other people, but they're adequately spaced. And yes, you will be able to hear your employers during the interviews. So it's kind of an intimate kind of setting, but still opened setting for candidates who are interviewing for those particular jobs. Each employer has a set of tables, whether it be 1, 2, or sometimes 3, depending on how many areas that those particular institutions are recruited for. And so they have adequate seating for the candidates. But yes, it's an open space, but adequate spacing and an opportunity to hear the employers quite comfortably.
And I think because we recognize that further interviews, in terms of the interviews being done in spaces with other folks, because we recognize that it's just a lot happening at the same time in terms of multiple interviews taking place at once, with that we're not just throwing our candidates into the room and having them kind of find their employers on their own with that. And so one of the elements of the interview experience with that is having the employers come to the candidate waiting area to personally walk you over to their station with that, so that you can start the interview with that. So that provides a little bit more of a personal touch for our candidates with that, with the employers of that, in the middle of the big, I like to call, mosh pit of interviews that are happening at the same time. We have a couple more minutes for a few more questions. I think we have one coming in. So in regards to jobs being posted and kind of tagging on to what I talked about earlier in terms of uptick in numbers, TPE usually have about over 500 positions posted for candidates to filter through for interview experience. And so that's a lot of positions like that. And so again, uptick will happen, but usually more than 500 positions will be available at a variety of different levels with that. And so again, one of these is TPE as well. We recognize that not everyone is searching for an entry-level position with that. And so we have a wide range of position levels. They'll be available at TPE as well, entry-level, mid-level, and maybe some senior-level positions as well.
In terms of how long do interviews typically last and how much time should we schedule between interviews? Interviews, the standard time block is 30 minutes, but interviews kind of depend on the employer. An employer could be asking for a 1-hour time block, or they just could be asking for a 30-minute time block. So that'll really depend on the particular employer. In regards to how much time should be scheduled between, that's also kind of a personal question too. I mean, if you want to do as many interviews as you possibly can, then you're going to be doing back-to-back interviews. A cautionary tale is not all employers finish at 30-minute mark. They could go a few minutes over, they could go 10 or 15 minutes over, which then leaves you late to your next one. So how much time kind of really is going to depend on what your schedule ends up looking like, but we do recommend some time that is put in between your interviews just to guard against a particular interview going over.
I think also to add on to that, and thinking about not just the interview schedule itself, but do you have time to eat? Have you taken the opportunity to actually just sit for about 15 or 20 minutes for that? And so making sure that you're accounting for those aspects as well, with that as you're going from one interview to the next, so every day having a checklist of things that you need to accomplish outside of interviewing with that. And so when do I want to have lunch with that? And so how is that going to impact my next interview with that, wanting to take a nap before the next interview. We have seen people sleeping in the candidate workroom. That's totally fine.
So a question came in responding to one of our responses. We talk about that there are well over 500 positions average listed through TPE. In terms of candidates, I mean, there have been typically more candidates than there are positions available. So, it's something that it's a competitive process. So I think putting your best foot forward and making sure you're prepared is one of the things that you definitely have to look at.
And you have well over 800 candidates.
And sorry, I was just reminded that typically some schools, for example, with a hall director position, they'll list it once, but they will have multiple positions available. So it may only be listed once, but they may list within the description that they have 2 openings or 3 openings for that coming academic year.
And I think there was another question about what times do interviews start in the morning and end in the evening. And from what I recall, I think they can probably start, Ebonice, you can correct me on this one, I think it started around like 8 or 8:30 or something like that.
So except for Wednesday, where interviews start from 12 to 8.
Right.
The first day of TPE. Yes.
Okay.
And so for a note for candidates for this question as well with that. And so going from 9 to 8, the rest of the days outside of Wednesday, there should not be interviews. Usually there's no interview scheduled after 8 p.m. on each of the days. And then the last day of TPE, because we close early on Saturday, interviews are from 9 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. on Saturday. And so Wednesday, we have 12 to 8. Thursday and Friday, we have 9 to 8. And then on Saturday, we have 9 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. And so we will also have the schedule available online soon. So if that helps any of you kind of plan in terms of your travel time with that, when you want to come into Los Angeles. And scheduling will be available online soon so y'all can start scheduling interviews. We have time for one more question. Alrighty, thank you all so much for attending our webinar today. Again, if you did not get your questions answered throughout this webinar and this session, please email us at candidates@theplacementexchange.org so that we can get those questions answered for you. Also, this reminder again, this webinar session will be posted on our YouTube channel in about 28 to 48 hours so that you can review the content and see it all once more. Also, don't forget to join us next time. Our following through webinars, resume structure, how to finance TPE in a budget, and our first candidate orientation will be going through our on-site resources as well. We hope we see you all in Los Angeles, March 6th through the 9th. Again, if you haven't registered, we hope you do so with that and to get that early bird rate on January 11th. But again, thank you all so much for sitting in on our webinar, and we hope to see you at more, and we hope you all have a fantastic day. Bye.